Right, I'm Tom, and in this second video I want to run through how to create your digital artwork and software options that you can use. So artwork creation has come on leaps and bounds since I first did this. I've always used Illustrator and I still do, but Affinity is a really powerful tool and it's free. There's only a couple of things Affinity can't do, which made me pick Illustrator, one of which is how it interprets layers, but that shouldn't be an issue for you if you're just creating your own artwork. So I need the capabilities to edit multiple people's artwork at any one time for print and do other more complex tasks within production. So I have to use Illustrator, but so long as you are producing your artwork at 300 dpi with CMYK color format and all your images going into the artwork are 300 dpi from the get-go, then the file format doesn't really matter. I tend to use PDF, but I've had people send their artwork over as bitmap images in the past and it's worked because they've been the correct resolution. I should stress though that this is if you're producing your packaging yourself. If you're using another company to make your packaging, always work to their specifications. It'll just slow things down otherwise and cause problems, and a lot of print companies just won't want to deal with that. As far as I can tell, Affinity is the only free option that you can use in CMYK color format. I think GIMP can, but I've never got to grips with that myself, but that is another option you could use. Affinity has a pretty incredible feature where you can switch from vector to pixel. So this is like switching from Adobe Illustrator to Adobe Photoshop within the same file, which is, I don't understand how it works, and this isn't a paid for video for Affinity. It's a great tool that didn't exist last time I did this. So I use Affinity for all photo editing. It's really powerful and I just don't see the point in paying the money for Photoshop anymore. So this is the do-it-yourself packaging section of the ACDSleeve website. So here you'll find the artwork guides and the templates for the products that I'm offering. So the artwork guide basically shows panel orientation, shows dimensions, shows where the gluing tabs are, and we'll have the creases marked in just so you know where they are. The template itself is literally just the line with a little bit of notes and showing you how you make it up. Once you've downloaded the files, you want to open that up then with Affinity. When you bring this into Affinity, you want to either select pages or artboards. I go with artboards because that's similar to Illustrator. You want to select the DPI to 300 and you want to set the color space to CMYK. And you open that and there's the template in Affinity. So first thing off, you don't need any of this. It'll just kind of get in the way. Then you've got your template lines here. So if you want to get a photo into Affinity, just right click, open in Affinity. It's opened in Affinity, you just want to make sure you're on Pixel, and because you're designing something for a CD case, you want to work to relatively square ratio. So got this image, so crop that down using the crop tool. I'm relatively new to using Affinity day in, day out, so there's so many tutorials online that are definitely worth checking out. So if you're using photos, you want to be using the pixel space. So all photos are made with the RGB color format. So print is CMYK, so you want to go and convert the file to CMYK, and all photos will be huge. So what you want to do is go to Document Setup, Resize, Document, and because all photos again are set at 72 dpi, which is a screen resolution, you want to set this to 300 dpi. You want to resample that, and you want to set this to millimeters and just make it roughly the size of the panel that you're after. So the front of the slipcase is 125 by 123. So if you make it 128, lock that so it's square, resize that, and there's your image. So if you close that, save it, then we're back to the artwork. So what you want to do is create another layer here. You want to drag the new layer, you can rename them, but just for the sake of this, you want to drag the new layer down to the bottom. So whatever you put in this layer, you can see the template lines through. So if you drag the image that you've just made in, now you have the cover image. So you can zoom in, get it close to where the spine is, with a little bit of overlay on the glue flaps, leaving these predominantly clear. If, for instance, your image is a bit bigger and you really want to keep these areas clear, so you can solve this by simply drawing a square, set it to white, and then that is effectively creating bleed to keep this area clear. And then you can add text. You can basically just make your packaging however you want it. So I'll just finish this one up. So with Affinity, it has its own file format, so you want to save this as its own thing. So in here, we'll go to where I have saved these in do-it-yourself files. So that will save as a .af file. And then what you could do is create a new document. You could set it to SRA3, which is 450 by 320. Make sure it's set at CMYK, color format, set at 300 dpi, so you create this document. So if you go back to this and select the whole thing and right click and group, that will mean that everything stays together wherever you click on it. If you want to ungroup, then they're separate again. You could add in some text. You could change the size. Change the color. Then select all. Group it again, then that's one unit. So into the other file, you can copy this, then you can paste this in, and from there, the slipcase should fit. So copy and paste again. 3 up on an SRA3 sheet. If you top and tail them, just about squeezes in, so you might have to just lop them down. So if you go to File, Export, select PDF because that's what most printers will want to be using. Check that everything's set 300 dpi, quality you want set to 100. Color format, ensure that's CMYK. Go to export, put it wherever you want it. So again, pop it in the do-it-yourself files file that I've got. The PDF file is here. So these templates are pretty customizable. So open the 4 panel. Open it as an artboard. I'm not 100% sure this is the way to go, but it seems to be working for me. But like I said, there's plenty of tutorials online. I'm still using Illustrator for doing this kind of work, but I've just picked this up really quickly to sort this video out. So again, 300 dpi, CMYK, open this, and in Vector, what you want to do is just remove all this stuff that I've put on because you don't need it. You want to select all of this and just make sure it is grouped so you don't accidentally delete something, move a section, and then when you print it, it just doesn't work. So if you use a node tool, what you can do is you can select sections. So say you don't want the finger grip, you can just delete these lines, and then you won't have that across to make the semicircle cut. If you, for instance, want a wider spine, you can just drag over these sections and make a wider spine. If for whatever reason you wanted a larger glue flap because this isn't doing the trick for you, you can just stretch those points out. And yeah, it's these files using Affinity, you can really do some interesting things. You can make these designs however you want them to be, just as I've seen. Make sure that if you are stretching stuff that everything gets carried along, because this piece hasn't. So shift this over, and then that's good for artwork. So that's how to slightly customize these templates. One thing I will say, that if you're bringing in a photo, which could make the cut lines harder to see, this one of Rusty down here. So what you can do is select it and change the template line a blue, or I used to use a red quite often. So it just makes it a bit more visible. If you're doing a lot of black, then, so say the entire artwork is black, then what you might want to do, I mean, I wouldn't recommend this with digital print, but what you might want to do is set this to white. You can't really see it coming off there, which is not ideal, and you don't want to have the print running all the way into the glue flap because it'll make the glue hard to stick. Going back to this design, what I didn't mention is with these templates, because everything is cut to the lines, you don't need to have bleed on there. So bleed is effectively this, it's running print past the cut lines. It's easier to do this than to crop it down exactly to the size you need. It's worth running a little bit into the creases so the image doesn't stop dead, but just keep the glue flaps clearer of print. So this is unusual for packaging design to have no bleed. So you could effectively have this image back here running exactly to the line and that will be fine. But if you wanted to get some packaging made through a printing company, if you sent them that, they wouldn't want to use it. They'd say it would have to be more like this with 3mm, which is basically what I request on artworks when I'm producing your packaging if you're getting printed stuff. So this works quite nicely. So I've allowed extra for bleed. So what you might want to do with this is select the template and pick the line color and make it a red, so it's maybe a bit more visible. One little trick that I forgot to mention is if you're a little bit unsure about everything being the right size before you go to print, if you go back to the original template, so you open up the file as it's downloaded on the website, so open that in Affinity, do the same setup, open, just delete these, and you grab this template, copy that, go into the file that you are planning on printing, paste the template in, just check that nothing has come out of line, you haven't stretched anything, that everything hits the corners where they should. It's just a little safety measure if you're getting a few sheets printed to make sure it's exactly what you want it to be. This should be everything you need to make your packaging for the templates that I'm providing on the ACDSleeve website. I recommend using Affinity. If you have access to Illustrator and Photoshop, then that's great, but I think it's a free piece of software that can do everything you need it to. There's nothing else like it on the market, so check that out. If you're struggling with Affinity itself, just have a look on YouTube, have a look on Google. It's pretty new to me. I've only been using it myself for a few months, picking things up here and there. I use it, like I said, for photo editing, and there's often things I need to figure out. So there's a lot of people spreading information about how to do things on there. I'm only scratching the surface in this video, so I think it's a piece of software that you could really do a lot with. Thanks for watching this. Thanks for sticking with it. I know it was a bit long, this one, but I just wanted to make sure as much is covered as possible. Check out the last video on tools and equipment. The next one will be on card and print. And thanks for watching. Cheers.